Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we've got a really interesting stack of source material we've been digging into.
Yeah, it's all about automation tools, specifically looking at FlowWise and n8n, especially for 2025.
Exactly. We've got articles, reviews, bits of documentation, all trying to get a handle on these two. And specifically, how they stack up for building AI agents. That seems to be the big question.
It really is. I mean, these no-code, low-code tools are everywhere, but they're not all the same, especially you get into AI workflow automation. Understanding their, specific strengths is key.
Right. So our mission here is to unpack all this, compare FlowWise and n8n, especially through that AI agent lens, and pull out the crucial bits. We want you to walk away knowing what they are, how they're fundamentally different, and importantly, which one might be right for your needs.
Think of it as getting a clearer map of this part of the automation world, focusing on the terrain, best suited for advanced AI stuff.
Okay, so let's jump right in. Based on the sources, at a high level, what are FlowWise and n8n? They sound similar at first glance.
They do. Both are open source. Both use these visual drag-and-drop interfaces. You connect nodes to build workflows. That part's common ground.
Right.
But the sources immediately draw a line in the sand based on their core purpose. It's a fundamental difference.
Okay, what's that difference then?
FlowWise is consistently described as AI first. Like it was conceived and built specifically for creating LLM-based AI agents.
LLM-based,
Yeah.
large language model.
Exactly. The sources highlight its tight integration with things like LangChain and, crucially, LangGraph frameworks designed for building AI.
Yeah.
So its sweet spot is, complex chatbots, advanced RG systems.
For our J retrieval-augmented generation, where the AI uses your specific data.
Precisely. Connecting the AI to knowledge bases. FlowWise is tailored for those kinds of sophisticated AI applications.
Okay, AI first for FlowWise. What about n8n? How do the sources describe it?
n8n gets labeled automation first, or a general-purpose workflow automation platform. Think Zapier, think Make, but open source and often more powerful.
Ah, okay. So more like connecting lots of different things together.
Yeah, exactly. Its big strength, according to the material, is linking a huge variety of apps, services, databases, using logic like webhooks, data transformations, loops, conditions. It's about automating broader business processes.
Got it. So maybe a simple example. If I just want to, say, post a Slack message when a new customer signs up in my CRM, n8n is probably the tool.
That fits squarely in its general automation wheelhouse, yes.
But if I want that Slack message to be drafted by an AI that first reads the customer's company website and summarizes their business, then FlowWise sounds more like the specific tool for that AI part.
That's a great way to put it. The AI complexity points towards FlowWise. The visual interface might look similar on the surface, but the underlying design and purpose, especially for building actual agents, are quite distinct. That's what the sources emphasize.
Okay, let's unpack that difference more. How does this AI first versus automation first idea show up in, say, the user interface itself?
Well, both use drag-and-drop nodes, right? But FlowWise's UI, its actual nodes and connections, are built to directly represent the concepts from AI frameworks like LangChain.
Like what, specifically?
You'll see nodes for different kinds of chains, nodes for retrievers that fetch data, memory modules to handle conversation history, tools the AI can decide to use. It visualizes the building blocks of an AI agent.
Makes sense. And n8n's interface.
n8n's node library is much, much broader. It's focused on connecting to hundreds of external APIs, manipulating data in various ways, handling webhooks, running standard code snippets, implementing loops, and conditional logic. It's geared towards general process flow.
And that ties into integrations, right? The sources seem pretty clear that n8n has a big lead there.
Oh, definitely. That's consistently highlighted as n8n's major strength. Over 400 native integrations were mentioned: Google Suite, Slack, Airtable, databases, CRMs, marketing tools, pretty much anything you can think of. It acts as a central automation hub.
Whereas FlowWise integrates more with the AI ecosystem.
Exactly. Its integrations are more specialized. Different LLM providers, OpenAI, Hugging Face, Anthropic, etc., various vector stores for HAG, Pinecone, Chroma, Weaviate, embedding models. All the pieces an AI agent needs to function internally or connect to its core AI services.
Okay, now, this is where one source got really interesting, particularly for anyone serious about building complex AI agents. It talked about the underlying architecture and this idea of state. Can you break that down? Why is it such a big deal?
Right. This was presented as maybe the most critical difference architecturally, especially when you compare FlowWise to n8n for agent building. FlowWise, because it's built on libraries like LangGraph.
LangGraph,
But
that's related to LangChain.
yeah, think of it as LangChain's engine, specifically designed for building complex stateful agents using a graph structure. FlowWise basically provides a visual, low-code way to work with LangGraph. And LangGraph is all about this concept of a shared state.
Okay, state. What does that mean in practice? Is it just memory?
It's more than just simple memory. Think of the state as a central blackboard or scratch pad that all the different nodes, all the steps in the agent's thinking process can read from and write to during a single run.
So it's not just passing data from one step to the next in a straight line?
Exactly not. Imagine an agent having a conversation. It needs to remember what was said 5 turns ago, what documents it looked up, what tools it tried using, maybe a plan it formed. That entire dynamic context is the state.
Uh-huh.
So as the workflow moves through different nodes in FlowWise, maybe one node retrieves info, another summarizes it, a third decides if the info is good enough, each node can see the current state and update it. This allows for really complex logic, loops, conditional branches based on the evolving situation, stuff that's absolutely essential for sophisticated agents.
And how does n8n handle this, according to the sources?
The sources suggest that while n8n can definitely call AI APIs and even include some basic LangChain nodes, its fundamental architecture isn't built around this shared, dynamically updated state concept in the same way FlowWise LangGraph is.
So it's more sequential. Step 1 finishes, passes output to step 2.
Generally, yes, it passes outputs as inputs, which is standard for workflow tools. But it lacks that central, persistent state that multiple nodes can interact with collaboratively within a single execution. The analysis indicates this makes building those really dynamic, conversational, iterative agents, where the agent might loop back, reconsider, use tools based on context much more difficult in n8n.
So FlowWise's whole structure is better suited for that kind of back-and-forth internal reasoning.
That's the strong implication from the sources, yes. It's optimized for managing conversation history, chaining prompts together dynamically based on what's happening, letting the agent choose tools effectively, all because it leverages that underlying stateful architecture from LangGraph. n8n can trigger AI tasks, but FlowWise is built to orchestrate complex agentic behavior.
Okay, that makes sense. And the state thing, it also relates to transparency, doesn't it? One source mentioned seeing the agent's steps in FlowWise.
Yes, exactly. That was highlighted as a big plus. Because FlowWise is visualizing that LangGraph execution, you can often trace the agent's path. You see which nodes fired, what the inputs and outputs were, and critically, how that shared state changed at each step.
Which must be amazing for debugging.
Absolutely invaluable. If your agent does something weird, you can see why. The sources suggested n8n is more of a black box when it comes to the internal reasoning of an integrated AI task. You see the input and the final output, but not necessarily the intermediate steps of the thought process in the same granular way.
There was a really cool RAG example in one source using FlowWise. It sounded way beyond just basic document lookup.
Yeah, that was a great illustration. It showed how FlowWise could manage a really complex, iterative RAG process. It wasn't just user asks question, fetch documents.
What did it do?
The workflow described first validating the user's question, maybe checking if it's clear enough, then using an LLM within the FlowWise workflow to generate several different, potentially better phrased search queries based on the original question.
Ah, like reformulating the query automatically.
Exactly. Then it would loop through those queries, hitting the vector database for each one, retrieving documents separately. Then it would combine all that retrieved context. And get this, it even had conditional logic, like another agent step, to evaluate if the combined information actually answered the original question well enough.
Wow.
If not, it could potentially loop back, maybe regenerate the queries, and try the retrieval again. That whole multi-step reasoning, dynamic query generation, evaluation, iteration, all managed visually in FlowWise. The source presented that as much, much harder to replicate effectively in n8n.
FlowWise also seems to have some features just baked right in for chatbots, doesn't it?
It does. The sources mention things like built-in rate limiting, stopping users spamming the bot like maybe 5 messages per 30 seconds, configurable starter prompts to guide the user, even AI-suggested follow-up questions the bot can offer. Little touches, but clearly focused on deploying practical, user-friendly conversational agents.
And there was a really technical point, but it sounded crucial. Multithreading.
Yes, that's another major architectural difference highlighted, again stemming from FlowWise using LangGraph. Multithreading means FlowWise can handle multiple conversations or workflow runs at the same time, in parallel.
Whereas n8n
n8n generally processes executions one after the other, sequentially.
So if you build a chatbot and suddenly get hundreds of people using it at once.
FlowWise, with multithreading, is designed to handle that concurrent load much more gracefully. It's fundamental for performance and responsiveness at scale. The sources position this as a significant advantage for FlowWise if you're building high-traffic AI applications. n8n might struggle or slow down under heavy concurrent use for complex flows.
Right. Okay, we should probably mention cost quickly. One source did give some figures.
Yeah, just for context, the source compared the managed cloud plans. It noted FlowWise's starter plan was around $35 a month, while n8n's was $20. And higher tiers were maybe $65 for FlowWise versus $50 for n8n. So slightly pricier for FlowWise's cloud offering based on that snapshot.
But of course, both are open source, so you can self-host them potentially for less.
Exactly. That pricing is just for their managed versions.
But it's not strictly an either situation, is it? The sources also talked about using them together.
That's a really important point they made. You can absolutely integrate a FlowWise agent into an n8n workflow or make or similar tools.
How does that work? Like an API call?
Typically, yes. You'd build your complex stateful AI agent in FlowWise, expose it as an API endpoint, and then call that endpoint from within your n8n workflow.
Ah, okay, so n8n could handle, like, triggering the process. Maybe it sees a new email come in.
Right. n8n handles the trigger, maybe pulls out some data from the email using its integrations, then calls the FlowWise agent API, passing that data. FlowWise runs the complex AI logic, figures out a response.
And sends the result back to n8n.
Exactly. And then n8n takes that result and uses its other integrations to, say, save it to a database, send a reply, email, post to Slack, whatever the broader process requires.
So you get the best of both worlds, FlowWise's AI brain and n8n's integration muscle.
Precisely. They can definitely be complementary. FlowWise handles the specialized agent part, n8n orchestrates the wider automation around it.
Okay, so let's try and summarize this for you, the listener. Based on everything we've pulled from these sources, looking ahead in 2025, when should you lean towards FlowWise and when n8n?
The sources draw a pretty clear line. Choose FlowWise if your main goal, your core challenge, is building sophisticated AI workflows. Things like complex LLM agents, chatbots that need real conversational memory and statefulness, advanced RGRE systems that need that multi-step reasoning we discussed.
Right, anything where the AI logic itself is intricate.
Yes, or where you need that fine-grained control and visibility into the AI steps, especially if you anticipate needing to handle many users at once. That multi-threading capability is key there.
Okay. And when is n8n the clearer choice?
Choose n8n if your focus is more on general business process automation, connecting lots of different apps, syncing data between platforms, building data pipelines, automating back-end logic, or maybe AI is one component, but it's not the central, complex, stateful part of the workflow.
So if the main challenge is just getting data from system A to system B, maybe transforming it a bit, n8n shines.
Exactly. It's incredibly powerful for that broad integration and automation task. The sources just suggest it wasn't purpose-built for the specific complexities of stateful AI agent development, in the same way FlowWise leveraging LangGraph was.
Got it. So n8n for automating around things, FlowWise for building the complex AI thing itself.
That's a pretty good distillation of the core message from the analysis we reviewed, yeah. Especially looking at where these tools are positioned for advanced agent building in 2025.
It's really fascinating watching these tools specialize, isn't it? Both clearly powerful, both open source and free to try, and the sources all agree they're evolving fast. This whole AI agent space is just moving at lightning speed.
It really is. And that rapid change leaves us with a final thought for you to chew on. As AI capabilities get woven more deeply into all sorts of platforms, not just specialized ones, and as tools like FlowWise maybe add more general automation features, how is that line between general automation and AI workflow going to keep blurring?
Interesting question.
What new kinds of automated systems or, agents will that convergence enable us to build? Things we might not even properly conceive of today. It's worth thinking about how these evolving distinctions might impact the tools you choose to learn or use for your own projects down the line.
That is a great question to ponder. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into FlowWise and n8n. We really tried to give you that shortcut, pulling the key insights from the source material to help you understand their differences, especially for AI agents.
Yeah, hopefully breaking down concepts like state and multi-threading and seeing those concrete examples helps clarify which tool might be the right fit for what you're trying to build, particularly if it involves complex AI.
We certainly hope this deep dive was valuable for you. If you found it helpful, do give us a like. It really helps. And subscribe to the channel. Maybe hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next exploration.
And please, if you know someone else wrestling with these tools or just interested in AI automation, share this video with them.
Absolutely. And let us know your thoughts down in the comments. Did this clarify things? Are you using FlowWise or n8n? What are your experiences? We genuinely love hearing from you and getting suggestions for what we should dive into next. Thanks for listening.